We are thrilled and delighted to be here with the director of We Are the Others. It's a film that we're so proud to show at the New York Jewish Film Festival. We have many questions about it, and I'd want to welcome Hadas Ayalon, who is the filmmaker.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for your film. I think it was such an important one. And I have, my first question for you is, why did you decide to tell this story?
Well, the truth, it started very, very long time ago. I was 25. I'm now 43. I didn't work on the film for this long, but the idea came with me at 25. I realized I was gay, and I hardly knew any lesbians around me. And I was very afraid that I'm not going to find anyone. And, you know, I was privileged in a way. I lived in the center of Tel Aviv. I studied film. I came from a liberal house. So I didn't, you know, it should have been okay and easy, but it wasn't. And being a history freak that I am, I started thinking about if it's for me, it's so hard now. What did people do like 30, 40 years ago? Maybe it was kind of, I don't know, maybe it was a comfortable thought that if they succeeded finding someone, I would probably will succeed. I don't know. It's the first time I'm thinking about it, that maybe it was a comforting thought. So I had an idea that I wanted to search the history of gay life in Israel, but I must tell you that I was very, very naive. I had this vision of underground cocktail parties, like the Berlin Weimar Republic parties with cabaret. I was completely off key. And then I kept thinking about it and had this like nostalgia. I don't know. I'll start again. I kept thinking about it, and I kept thinking about those hidden places and parties. And then I came back to it like almost 10 years afterward. I started research, and we'll talk later or what I found out that was, of course, completely the opposite of what I thought was.
And how did you, so it's so interesting to me, how come all of the people that you interview, you chose to follow men?
Well, it started as a technical decision. You know, that I had an idea and I started research. I researched for a long, long time, for years. I researched for years on my own time with no funding. And when you have an idea for a film, if you want to bring it to the film fund, usually you have to shoot some kind of trailer or scenes, that they would say, okay, we know that this director can deliver the story, so we'll give her money. And unfortunately, I started it 10 years ago, and I met with both men and women. Of course, being lesbian, I was more interested in the lesbian stories, but the women didn't want to go on camera.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was, I'm talking about women that were like 70 years old, and they said that you can just use my voice. And of course I didn't want to, because I said, I'm not going to do a film about LGBTQ and hide their faces. It's not the message I want to send. So I said, okay. And I had some men who agreed to be filmed for this trailer. And I said, okay, I'll do it with the men. And later on, I will just, find women. And as I researched, I understood that the narrative of the men and the women was quite the opposite. And
it's so interesting how, when you say quite the opposite, what do you mean?
Okay, so there was a really turning point in my research. after years and interviewing lots of men and trying to find out, what I'm dealing with. And I understood that the narrative of this film is the transition from sexual practice to identity, and from individuals to political group. And the women that I talked to, the narrative was the opposite. I mean,
wow, that's so interesting.
Yeah, it was, it started more with the feminist movement, and they met each other from the political groups. So I thought, okay, I will make it into a two-part film. I'll start with the We Were the Others men, and then I'll do the We Were the Others women, because I just didn't know how I'm going to combine both stories together. And of course, the mistake that I had, that I should have made it into a TV series. That was, but I started it a few years ago, that it was less popular to make documentary series. So I kind of need to now to make a film. And of course, the format of TV series would have solved this conflict. So, but that's the story.
That is kind of fascinating. I never thought of it in that way before. So I can just imagine the TV series.
It's unfortunate.
No, it's not unfortunate. It's an opportunity for now. So
but I made one film, so maybe I would make another one and then try to combine them together. I don't know.
And how did you choose these protagonists? Did you interview a lot of people and end up with these, or what was the process?
Wow, I interviewed, I think, over 70. Or I did it for years. I started when I was 35. I'm 43 now. Okay, I did it for years. I made a short film. I became a mom. I edited a lot. I'm an editor for many years now. I'm a film editor. I edited dozens of films and just I kept interviewing men now and then. And okay, first there was the selection that, I met everybody who agreed to meet me. So if somebody told me I don't want to be filmed, I still wanted to meet them, because I thought it would give me an interesting insight about the past. Because you must understand that I didn't find any information about a spirit, anything, nothing. There was no film, no book, nothing. And so I made it all from just researching it myself. And so so first of all, those who didn't want to to be filmed, of course, I interviewed them but I couldn't film them. Then there are characters that are less suitable for film, that they have maybe an amazing story, but they don't know how to maybe tell it very, very interesting or charismatic way. And after making this selection, I knew it was important to me to find prototypes of people. I wanted someone who lost his job because it was gay, and I wanted a couple that that were together for many, many years, and I wanted someone who got married, and I wanted someone who was more radical and and fought and was less afraid to come out. So I met a lot of people. Some have died along the way in the research, and when I found Giora and Rafi, the couple, that's when I said, okay, my research is done, because I just couldn't find a good couple that had a good story like them. And then I decided, okay, now I can go and shoot the film.
What the common thread for me about all of your characters is they were both as they were describing the early years, which were so complicated and without hope. but then the optimism and hope that they had, it just felt that they were very strong personalities with such a good mix of, reporting the reality of the moment, but also staying kind of buoyant about the future.
Yeah.
So it really attracted, as a viewer, you're just really right there with them, with all of them. So that was
another. Can I add another thing? Sorry, and it was very, very important for me to like them. I wanted to like each person I filmed. I'm stuck with them for like half a year in the editing room. I wanted to like each of them and to portray them with love. So that was another.
So successful there, because it really felt like you could make a movie out of each character. I would have been so happy to follow each protagonist through a whole movie by themselves.
That's when we'll do the TV series and
exactly. It was so interesting. As I was watching it, I was really thinking about what's happening in the United States right now is, rights that we thought were cemented in stone, like, the right to choose. I mean, human rights that have been with us for 50 years feel like, and voting and so many things feel like they're so precarious now. Like they're being rolled back. Things that we felt comfortable were the gains that we'd made as a, society. And so to see this and just be reminded that these rights are so hard won through political movements. Do you feel that there at all in Israel, that that there's a conservatism that's in danger of rolling things back?
I'm more optimistic today than I was a year ago. But yeah, there is. I am afraid that this is just a period of time where we have more rights, and that it can change in a heartbeat. But I think I'm more concerned about other minorities, not about. I think that in this moment, I live in Tel Aviv, so I don't encounter racism toward me, but I'm more worried about other minorities at this moment. Yeah.
And Tel Aviv is kind of internationally known, or I don't know if it's just a kind of cliche that gets bounced around, but one of the gayest cities in the world that's very progressive and very welcoming. How do you think that's true? And B, how do you think that evolved from such a,
It's amazing. It's amazing. It's just amazing what happened. I mean, look at the film. I mean, it's I think, I'm not a sociologist. I have a couple of theories that I don't know if they're correct or not. But first of all, many Israelis, when the period I filmed in the 60s and the 70s, Israel was very isolated. People didn't have money to go out of the country and travel and to see what's happening in England or in New York or in Amsterdam. And today everybody's, people fly more than they take buses. Really, we have like in Israel, before the coronavirus, like you have to, people are just obsessed about going out of the country. So I think that helped. And I also think, which is kind of maybe a paradox, but I think the army really helped because people said there is this like, I served the army, I deserved all the rights that other people who didn't serve, So a lot of gay men that were combat fighters can say, I fought for the country, I deserve the same rights. So that was a real big narrative in the end of the 90s, beginning of the 2000s. And I also think that very helpful that we have a lot of pressure to make children. And I think that it helped in a way to make gay couples straighter. Can you say that? I mean, be gay, just bring me grandchildren. So I'm serious.
It's all the bottom line. Bottom line. That's
I'm
all
serious.
that counts.
Just and I had a babe. I have a child with my ex-partner, and everything was paid for. I mean, it's you don't have to pay for anything. It's not like in the United States where you have to spend a lot of money when you're going through this procedure. We did have to buy the semen, which of course cost money, but all of the procedure around it, it's the state covers it. So, I think, again, I'm not a but there's these three things I think that
it's kind of the Bubby's needs theory. And it's like,
yeah, I don't know, but it's my theory. So I don't know. I don't know if it's true or not.
So and where did you find all the footage? There was such great kind of archival footage.
Well, it's interesting because I knew that I wanted to use footage, but at the beginning of the first rough cut, there wasn't any. And you heard the stories, but you just didn't feel the era. You didn't feel the fright, you didn't feel the time. And then I took a wonderful archive researcher, and I told her, just find me whatever you can so I can edited some edited scenes that I will try to show in just by showing, not by telling all of the stories. And she did some amazing job. She found B movies from the United States, and we cut it together with visual from Israel. So that's one part. And the other is that there was a genius Israeli director, gay director, Amos Gutman, and he made 3 short films, if I'm not mistaken, and 3 feature films, and we asked the family to use it. And so that's the main archive material that I have in the film. But it's kind of all mixed together. It is films and then the Tel Aviv city and the B movies in America, and they're kind of all.
Well, you conjure up an era. You certainly conjure up an era with that. And how did you decide to there are no talk, as you just said, there's no kind of sociologists really talking or talking heads, and they were just following the narrative of the characters, and that really makes it so potent.
Oh, I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry, I just went on mute for a minute. It was I think it's so more potent that you focused on the characters rather than having a lot of talking heads, sociologists, et cetera, talk. Were you always going for that format, or how did you
Always. I knew that I didn't want like experts talking about, maybe because there aren't many, but it was really important for me to film only people that were really in this era, and not just telling me from not just outsiders who research. And I did all of the research myself, so I kind of knew what I wanted to get out from the characters as soon as I knew all the story that I wanted to tell. So I didn't feel that I need someone else. And Giora, which I told the one from the Giora and Rafi couple, is a sociologist. So I searched for someone who is like a historian or a sociologist who is also gay, who can also be a character, to give me like something extra. And Giora did it, and that was that's why I said, okay, let's go shoot the film as soon as I found him, because you just add everything in one person. But I just knew, I don't know why, I just knew that no experts. let the people tell their own story.
And where's it shown? Have you been in many festivals? What's been the trajectory?
Yeah, I've been in a lot of Zoom festivals. No, unfortunately, it started just before the corona. I was first. It was shown in a Tel Aviv Film Festival. Was the premiere, which is a great documentary festival in Israel. And then a week later, it was shown in the Israeli Channel 11, which is the broadcast channel in Israel. And then I was invited to Austria, and a week before that, they closed the borders, and every festival since was like we're doing now. Yeah.
What are you working on? Are you working on a new film?
Yeah, I'm working about now. I'm with lesbians, but not a documentary. I wrote a feature film.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and well, actually, the film before We Were the Others was a short narrative film called Paris on the Water, and it won the Student Academy Award in the United States. So I was always, attracted to documentary as an editor and narrative film as a director. So now I wrote, for the past 4 years, I wrote a feature film about two 50-year-old lesbian couple who go through separation, and it got its first funding now from Israel, one of the Israeli funds. So we're now searching for more funds, but this is my next thing.
Well, sounds like we'll be looking forward to seeing that one.
I'm looking forward to showing it, and I hope I can come
In
to
person.
New York in person.
Looking forward to seeing you in person in New York with your next film. Well, thank you for this film. We really think it's so important, and it feels very timely. Even though it's historic, it feels very timely. As I say, as we're re-examining the rights that we've gained and are so precarious, it feels even more important.
And you see, in the film, which is very important for me to add, knowledge can change, consciousness and perspective. And when people didn't have any knowledge about homosexuals, it was even easy to lead to demonization. You know that until 1960, there were 8 articles this size about gays in all of the Israeli newspaper. And something even more important, I searched for something about Stonewall, and I found nothing.
Wow.
So that's why when Asher said that we came to Israel and he just met men that were having sex with men, and they didn't even think that it has anything to do with their identity. So, as soon as they got this information, they could start making a change. So for me, it's very important.
It's one of the positives of the internet is the sharing
Yes.
of, sharing.
Yes.
It makes you feel like on the positive side, you can connect and feel.
And minority is not so scary as you think they are.
Exactly. Well, thank you again for your beautiful film.
Thank you.
And we wait to see you in New York with your narrative feature.
Yeah.
In person.
Thank you very
Okay.
much. Bye-bye.
Bye.